Thanks for the opportunity to present this. I'm at the stage, I'm working at RMIT. I'm a course coordinator of a large first year subject. I have about 2,000 students in the first year cohort each semester, and about 2,000 in Singapore and another 1,000 in Vietnam. So my course is taught across a number of different campuses of RMIT, and my colleague Keith has a second year course where I teach and coordinate the first year course. Keith teaches the second years. And we started to think about how we could integrate the RSD into the two courses we run. And we're kind of in a unique position because we're redesigning these two courses. So it gave us an opportunity to rethink the way we could build in critical thinking. And I'm calling it the critical thinking Pentagon, but I don't know, I think you've used that term as well, the critical thinking framework. But it's really the problem-solving framework that we've connected with mostly for designing our curriculum. And we have asked this research question, can digital tools be used to measure critical thinking? And we've designed our research project around this research question. There's a big push in the context I work to use digital tools. And like in many universities, we're asked to integrate blended learning types of activities into the course structure. There's also been at our university quite a strong disciplinary push to, as you know, a lot of us are struggling with, assess the discipline knowledge as opposed to assess the critical thinking skills that help us explore the discipline knowledge. So, at a learning and teaching meeting last week, they, were quite condescending when I presented the new course structure and said, if you don't know how to, teach critical thinking in the management, we can show you how to do that disciplinary approach. And I was thinking, well, I thought we might try a different approach because this gives us a framework to inquire into the discipline knowledge and allows students to be collaborative investigators to some extent in thinking about the methodology they use to inquire into the knowledge. So it's kind of redesigned the course around that particular sort of approach. And I think the way we've designed the research project in this course across the two subjects is to get employers' perspectives as well as our teachers' perspectives. So we're kind of in a process of getting our teachers, our lecturers and the people that run the tutorials to think a little bit differently about, how they're teaching. So this seems like a common theme that many of us are struggling with. And listening to your presentation, I could identify with many of those issues. So within these two subjects, what we've done is look at the content and kind of explored how the content could be framed around these facets of learning to be a more research-based approach. In both subjects, in my introductory subject to management, these are the learning objectives that have been designed around the critical, like the key facets. They're embedded in the learning objectives now, where they once were not embedded in those learning objectives. You can see they're around organising information and generating, reflecting, communicating. So having those built into our course learning objectives enables us to measure things differently. Another key difference, instead of having a structure that assesses a case study, the traditional kind of learning approach, It's much more designed around a practical problem-based approach. So what I do in the subject is initially get them, you know, to use the critical thinking framework to reflect on what they value about work. You know, what is it, thank you, that's really important for them in managing their work. And over the course, they, I guess, developed problems around, you know, the modern workforce asks us to be much more aware of how we manage diversity. So their poster is designed around how they manage diversity, and their e-portfolio brings artifacts around what they see as really what they offer in the workplace. So it's kind of very much based on a work integrated learning model. It's no longer an exam and a report. It's a different structure and similar with the organisation analysis subject. They now assess a practical problem, how they could redesign a particular change process in an organisation. So in my subject, in the first 3 lectures, they answer a kind of a prescriptive problem, and they have to critically evaluate how they answer that problem. So all through the structure of the course, they're reflecting quite a bit. And in the introduction to the course, you know, I sell that concept. This is about reflecting on your learning. It's about being an inquirer. It's about critically engaging with the material. So yeah, it's a bit of a shift. And throughout, I guess in this first year subject, it's quite prescriptive about the kinds of problems that they're asked to inquire into. Whereas in the second year subject, they're asked to design the problem that they will inquire into. This is what the structure of the second year subject is. They're looked at different methodologies to inquiry. So I'll just, sorry. So the RSD kind of underpins our framework. It's in that sort of red-orange zone that we pitch it. Our marking rubrics reflect those learning objectives that I spoke about in the beginning. We, in each of the tutorials, work through exercises that engage students in thinking about the discipline, knowledge, and this particular framework. And we've kind of found that as we've designed our rubrics, we haven't been able to follow exactly the structure of where those, I guess, levels are pitched, because with critical thinking, maybe it fits somewhere a little bit differently. Because our university is also very much around work integrated learning, we're very practically orientated at RMIT. We're not a research university. We're about, you know, work and life. That's our slogan. How do students engage with their learning and apply it to industry? We have more kind of, a lot of students that come into my subject come from engineering, IT. They come from, you know, the design kind of courses. So they're wanting to learn those practical skills. So yeah, we're researching how we actually kind of design our student-driven approach. At RMIT, authenticity is defined in terms of the way you bring a student into the workplace. So, you know, if you have a practical placement, it's up in this high corner. It's considered much more authentic and student-driven. I guess what we're sort of proposing is there is another way to think about, you know, student-driven, and that's through the pedagogy that you use. So this is a little bit different for RMIT. The more kind of simulations, they see that as more authenticity rather than the design of curriculum. there's been a lot of pushback, I would say, too, in thinking about it that way. So my research design for this particular project looks at interviewing employers, and I embed those interviews into my learning management tool. I bring in employers talking about, you know, why inquiry is important for them when they employ a new student. I ask them questions that are designed around the facets. So they're kind of doing these live little interviews throughout, so students get a sense of, you know, how they're applying. With my teaching group, I have a group of about 30 teachers in the RMIT campus, and Singapore and Vietnam have campuses too, and we're just rolling this out in the coming semester. So I'll be interviewing them pre and post to get a sense of what, I guess, they feel, or how they feel about this new model. And, you know, if they feel that some of the digital tools and the pedagogical design has helped them kind of guide the students through a critical thinking approach. Yeah, so we haven't done the data collection. It's a narrative approach. It's, you know, pulling out themes in interviews, and it's asking the teachers how they feel the students' work is progressing. We haven't got the student voice in this as such, but for my ethics, I found it a bit easier to look at these two cohorts at the beginning at least, and maybe down the track as we implement it a bit further, there might be greater opportunity to actually bring students into this. So yeah, I guess that's the key things I wanted to cover in my presentation. I've got 1 minute left to talk further, but I think I've covered I guess the summary of how this is being redesigned. So I'm very keen to answer any questions that you might have about the project.
Thank you very much for that.